All right, so welcome in. I totally forgot that I did not record, so I'm just going to give a brief overview. So quickly, um, this is we are on page 17 of our packet, or essentially page 3 of the single-handed notes that you received or is on campus. If you want to take a quick snapshot picture of this, or if you want to write this down on your paper, please do so. This is King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. The B stands for base unit. The key takeaway from this is that in the base unit tile, we only have one letter, whereas in the 3 on the right and 3 on the left, we're going to have 2 letters. And the 2 letters comes from the first letter from the tile, in this case M, being a prefix, which means it's added before the unit, to the unit letter. So if we're talking about meters and we're on this one over here, it's going to be 2 M's, millimeters. If we're going to be on milliliters, it's the M from this with the unit for L, milliliters. The same thing happens if you're on kilo. So the K gets added to before the unit, so you get kilometers or kg and kiloliters, although you don't see that often. Okay, so why is this important? This method will allow you to convert from metric system in a lot easier fashion than dimensional analysis or the railroad factor that some of you may love or hate if you remember it from chemistry. I personally don't teach dimensional analysis because I believe it confuses more students than it should. To me, this is easier, but you're welcome to use any method that you like. As long as you get the right answer and show your work doing so, I'm perfectly satisfied. All right, let's look at how this metric system conversion works. So the first thing you want to identify is, do you have 2 letters or do you have 1 letter? In this case, we've got 2 letters over here, and we're going to 1 letter, which means we are starting at the K, or kilo, in this tile, and we want to get to the 1 letter box, the base unit box. Remember, these 3 have 2 letters, these 3 have 2 letters. This is the only tile that's going to have 1 letter. The common mistake is most students see the M and they think that they got to end up here. That's a mistake. This will give you 2 letters. So again, just keep in a habit of base unit. The one in the middle is 1 letter only. So we're at kilo over here, and we want to convert to meters. You treat this as like any board game, Monopoly, Life, whatever it may be. If you're over here, you have to count your steps to see what you need to roll in order to land on this box. You never count the box you're on because you're just going to be cheating yourself. So we count the next box. It's 1, 2, 3. So we went 3 steps to the right, and you do the same exact thing with your decimals. So we go from kilo, 1, 2, 3, and end up there. And the way it works in your decimal is you draw this 1, 2, 3 to the right, and you draw a little right arrow indicating which way you went, and you put in zeros for whatever you don't have. So that's the easy way to convert from metric systems. So the answer becomes 2,300 meters. Now we're going to do plenty of examples, and by the end of this session, you're going to be confident of your abilities to be able to convert, take care of the homework, but again, conversions are going to be used all year long in physics. Okay, so this is page 2 of the notes, or if you're going from the packet, this is page 16. And the first thing that I tell people is if you don't have it, because it's not going to be provided all the time to you, just go ahead and write it down on a sheet of paper. So it's however you want to remember it. You know, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, or another way that I tell my students is kiss her daily because divorce costs money. So whatever works for you, as long as you write it down and remember it, it's great. So it's K, H, D, and then this is the base unit, the middle one, tile. And then it goes into deci, centi, and milli. And remember that this tile over here is the one that is one letter only. The ones on the right are 2 letters. The ones on the left will have 2 letters. This one will only have 1 letter. All right, So let's go ahead, and the first thing that I suggest is that you identify on all your problems which one has the one letter. So in this case, this one is that one. Here's one, there's that one, and we've got this one, and we've got that one right there. In this one right here, they're both 2 letters, so we're not starting or we're not ending at the base unit. But the rest of them, we're going to have to either start or end at the base unit. So that helps out in terms of knowing that you don't make a mistake in this. All right, so quite a simple process. Again, just know where you start. Grams would be considered the base unit because it's 1 letter. And we're going to milligrams, so the M over here. So if we're going from this tile, you don't count this tile, you count this one. So it's 1, 2, 3 to the right. So we went 3 to the right, and we're going to do the same thing with our decimals. So we're going to take this, 1, 2, 3, draw a right arrow, and now we're going to rewrite the way we should see it, which is 0.05 milligrams. The next problem, 67,000 meters into kilometers. We're starting at the base unit. We want to get into kilo. So over here. So 1, 2, 3 to the left. If you don't see the decimal, it's all the way at the end. So draw it in, go 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3, and that's that. So now you can rewrite it as 67 kilometers. We're starting at 340 kilometers now and going into meters. Again, common mistake is kids see M and they think they got to end up here because they're like, well, that's an M, that's an M. This is why I ask you to just take note of this, highlight it beforehand, so you know that it's coming to the base unit. This is the one with 1 letter only. So you start here and you want to end at this tile. Never count the box you're on. So it's 1, 2, 3 to the right, decimals at the end, 1, 2, 3 to the right. Draw your little arrow indicating which way you went, and whatever you don't have, you put in zeros in there. So now it's 340,000 meters. Also, please get in the habit of putting commas in the right place. The rule for commas is after every 3 digits from the right, you put a comma. So it's 1, 2, 3, comma. All right. Moving on to the right side. Let me go to that. Moving on to the right side. So now we've got half of a centimeter, 0.5 centimeters, going into meters. So centi is over here, and we are going into meters. So in a way, we're going to be in this box. Again, not going to this one. You're going to base unit, this one on the left. So start here, and you count the next box. 1, 2. So we went only 2 spots to the left. Do the same thing. 1, 2. So now it's 0.005. Going from 800 kilometers to centimeters. Notice we didn't highlight anything because both of these have 2 letters. So now we're starting from here and ending in this box. So again, starting here, but count the next one over. So that's 1 step, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to the right. Draw your zeros, draw your decimal, and move 5 steps to the right. So that's 3, 4, 5. Whatever you don't have, put in zeros. I'm going to indicate my right direction, so I went that way. I already know there's 1 0 here, and there's 5 zeros that I got to add. So there's a total of 6 zeros that I got to write. So it becomes 8, 9, then there's 6 zeros. And remember, the rule for commas is after every 3 digit from right, so 1, 2, 3, there's a comma. 1, 2, 3, there's a comma. It makes it easier for us to read. So 89 million centimeters. This is where doing a scientific notation would come in handy. And we could if we wanted to. All right, finally, 1.57 meters to centimeters. So this is probably the easiest conversion, and you do something similar to this every day in your head. And the conversion that I tell you guys is, think about M as money, and for us, money is dollars. So think about $1.57. If someone said, hey, how many cents are in $1.57? Well, automatically in your head, you already probably said 157 centimeters, or 157 cents. So that's the relationship between the two, because centi, or the cents that we use, is 1 of 100. So a cent is worth 1 out of the 100 cents that make up the full dollar. That's the same thing with centi when it comes to centimeters and a meter. A meter is 100 centimeters, or like essentially like 100 cents for us, and each centi is like a penny. So if you ever, somebody said, hey, you have 300 cents, how many dollars is that? Automatically you go $3. It's the same thing if someone says, hey, you have 300 centimeters. How many meters is that? 3 meters. So think about centimeters as cents and meters as our money, essentially our dollars. It's a quick, easy way that you do it in your head. You've been doing conversions for a long time. You just may have not been aware of it. All right. Again, if you want to show work, and I consider this to be work, is basically just drawing the little arrows and the little lines, and that's work for me. So 1.57 meters, you're here, and you're going to centi. So that's 1, 2 to the right. 1, 2, arrow, and you're done. That's your work. Okay, how many kg is equal to 465 grams? So now we're just putting words behind everything we've been doing. Same exact information, now it's just a little words. No reason to get nervous about this. All this is saying is we want to find out how many kg are equal to 465 grams. That means 465 g is equal to unknown amount of kg. That's the same thing in those words. Okay, I'm going to show you dimensional analysis one time. Again, I don't require you to use it unless you are more than comfortable with it and love it. Whatever method you use, as long as you get the correct answer, I'm happy with that. But you decide which one's easier for you. So the way dimensional analysis works is you got to write your given on the left-hand side. So 465 grams. Then you make your little railroad track, T-chart, whatever. And it's not as simple as this all the time, because if you remember from chemistry, it keeps getting added and added if you have multiple steps. Then you take your units and bring it down here diagonally. So grams has got to be there. Then this is where you got to do your conversion factor, or you have to know how many grams go into kilogram. Or the word kilo means 1,000. So kilogram means 1,000 grams. So 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kg. And you end up with the unit that you want to finish your answer in up there. So this crosses out, and you end up with kg. And now you got to do it as the math behind it. 465 times 1 divided by 1,000. Then you get 0.465 kg. So you can choose to do this method, or you can choose the method that I've been showing you, which is, again, this is all the work I need from you to show me that you know how to do this. You're in grams, base units. You want to get into kg. 1, 2, 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3 to the left, and you're done. 0.465 kg. So both answers are correct. Both answers are the same thing. One is just super easier and shorter with less work. Again, I'm going to leave that up to you. All right. Converting from 4.5 kilometers into meters. So kilo, we're over here. Meters, over here. One letter. Again, don't go to this one. This would be millimeters with 2 M's. So 4.5 kilo going to here. That's 1, 2, 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3 to the right. Whatever you don't have, put zeros in there. As you've noticed, I've been boxing my answers, and I ask you guys to do the same thing when you're writing or taking any kind of work, because for one, it makes it easier for me to identify what your answer is, especially when a whole sheet of paper, and two, it makes everything a little bit neater. Also, please always have the correct unit. If you don't have the unit, the answer is not going to count, because units are important in terms of specifying what it is. Think about if you are trying to make plans with a friend of yours, and you tell them, hey, meet me in 5, and you just leave them at that. Well, what does 5 mean? 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 hours, 5 weeks, 5 rooms over. Where are we talking about? 5 miles, so you gotta specify things. So if you forget the units or don't use the correct units, that's not going to be the correct answer. We're not just concerned about a numerical value. We need to specify what we're talking about. All right, converting between 16,558 meters into kilometers. Again, one letter. So we're at base unit. Go into kilo. So 1, 2, 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3 to the left. All right, so that's going to be 16.558 kilometers. And remember, my policy is I don't need to see all these decimals or these digits after the decimals. I'm totally fine if you just go ahead and keep 2, but as long as you round appropriately. So what I mean by that is you got to show me 2 digits after the decimal. So you got to show me these 2, but base your rounding for this number on this number. And the policy for rounding is 5 and up, this rounds up. 4 and below, this stays the same. So you could easily say 16.56 kilometers, and that would be the correct answer. Okay, so now these have been very basic metric conversions. We're going to go ahead and get into doing a little time. And these are easy, nothing to be worried about. They might just seem like huge numbers. The key takeaway from this is to be just treat it as the concept of money. And by that, I mean, think about the units of money. So if you're starting with a big unit, let's just say like dollars, compared to a smaller unit of cents, if you want to convert from dollars to cents, you have to multiply. Remember that it is, if we said it's $3, the dollars is a big unit. But if you want to convert that into cents, you multiply by 100 and you get 300 cents. If you're going from a smaller unit into a bigger unit, which is the other way around, for example, going from cents to dollars, then you have to divide. So if we had 300 cents and you want to convert that into dollars, you have to divide by 100 to get into dollars. So when you're doing with time and stuff like that, or anything like, just keep that in mind, is when you're going from a big unit to a small unit, you are multiplying. When you are going from a smaller unit into a bigger unit, you are dividing. So 1,500,000 seconds. Small unit, large number, but we're concerned about the unit. So we're starting with small unit and going into days, which is a bigger unit. So you just go ahead and write your given 1,500,000. Then we are going to be write your units, seconds, and we're going to go ahead and divide. And you start off with the unit that you want to end in. So we start off with a day. We start off with 1 day. Now, we want to go, and what's the next unit after days? Meaning, what makes up a day? It's hours. There's 24 hours in a day. Since day is bigger than hours, you multiply that. So 24 hours. Then you look at the next unit that makes up hours. It's minutes. There's 60 minutes in each hour. So again, multiply by 60 minutes. And after that, we look at what unit makes up minutes, and that's seconds. There's 60 seconds in each minute. So you write that. And now what we see is we are ending at the same unit that we started with. So this is all we need, as far as we need to go. And if you take a look at this right here, when we started with a small unit and we're trying to go into a bigger unit, we're dividing. When we start with a bigger unit and go into smaller units, we're constantly multiplying. So I like to put parentheses because I want to tell the calculator to take care of this first before 1,500,000 seconds gets divided. So the way I write it is the way I suggest you punch it in the calculator. And if we are to do that, you will notice that in your calculator, well, this bottom portion will be equivalent to, it'll be like 1,500,000, and the bottom portion will be 86,400. So all these multiplied is that value right there. but you got to go ahead and divide this by this. So essentially, your answer will come out to be 17.36 days. All right. So that one was a multi-step process. The next ones are going to be a little bit easier because it's just going from hours into minutes. Bigger unit, smaller unit, so multiplication. So start with your given, 5.5 hours. And then you are going into a smaller one, so you have to multiply. The next unit that makes up hours is minutes. So you multiply by 60 minutes because 60 minutes makes up an hour. So times 60 minutes, and we get 330 minutes. And finally, this one, convert 3 weeks into hours. So again, big unit going to small one, multiplication. So 3 weeks, then the next unit that makes up weeks is days. There's 7 days in a week. And we have got the next unit after that is hours that make up days. There's 24 hours in a day. And since the original problem just wanted us to stop in hours, that's where we're going to go ahead and stop. There's no point for us to go into minutes and into seconds. So we just multiply 3 times 7 times 24. So it's essentially 3 times 7 is 21, 21 times 24. That will give us 504 hours. Okay. So now it says conversion factors to have. We will use these all year long. And that is true. There's going to be times where we use this. So if you have a homework problem and the homework problem, it may not be given to you, that's because we expect you to come back to this page and to view it. Remember, this is page number 2 in your notes, if the separate notes, or if you're going from the packet, this is page 16 on your packet. So you can find this in page 16 in your packet. If we ever take a test, not if we ever, we will take a test, but during quizzes and tests, these will not be these will be provided to you. So when it is time for a problem, and if it's going from miles to meters, we're going to go ahead and give you that exact value right there. This one over here. If it's from miles to feet, we're going to give you that one as well. So, but if it's your homework, you're expected to refer back to this page, page 16 in your notes in the packet, and look it up. Okay, so up to this point, we've been doing pretty much one-step simple problems. Now with these, it gets a little bit more, I don't want to say difficult, it's just added steps. But as long as you follow the steps that I'm going to go ahead and put out, there's only 3 steps, you should be fine. There's nothing to be worried about. So let's go ahead and take care of this. So it says, how fast is 60 miles per hour? And in meters per second. So this division sign, when we pronounce it, we refer to as per. And remember that per means per 1. So per means 1. And I'm going to point out why this is important because there's a mistake that often students make, and I want you guys to not make that mistake. So we're talking about 60 miles per hour, 60 miles per 1 hour, and how many is that in meters per 1 second? So we're going to go ahead and convert this. So the first step is converting from miles into meters. So convert miles into meters. So if we look at our little chart over here, we've got 1 mile is equal to 1,600 meters. So we're going to go ahead and write that we have 60 miles. So 60 miles. And each mile is equal to 1,600 meters times 1,600 meters. And when you multiply that out, you will get 96,000 meters. So now we've taken care of the first portion of that. So that was our step 1. Step number 2, we need to take care of hours into seconds. So convert hours into seconds. Now, I know there's one right here that says 1 hour is equal to 3,600 seconds, but you're not always going to have access to this, and it's a good habit to just write it out. So it's essentially 1 hour. Remember, the more practice you do, the better you get at it. 1 hour, there's 60 minutes in each hour, times 60, and there's 60 seconds in each minute, so times 60 seconds. So essentially it's 1 times 60, which is 60, and 60 times 60, which gives us 3,600 seconds. And it was 60 miles per hour, and right now it's 96,000 meters per 3,600 seconds. You haven't divided yet. So if you give me this as your answer, that's a wrong answer, because that's not a meters per second, that's meters per 3,600 seconds. So you have to go in there and divide this out. So your final step is to divide meters by seconds, or essentially just divide it out. So 96,000 meters divided by 3,600 seconds will give us 26.67 meters per second. And what seemed like a complex problem, we just broke it down to the same things we were doing. We just broke it down to a simpler version of converting from miles to meters, and then just doing our hour version into seconds. And you combine them at the end, divide, and you're done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this video here. You guys will have to do these two problems on your own. So work this out, work these two out, and I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and you get to give me a little to give you guys a chance. But at the same token, you should go ahead and pause this video before you see the next steps that I work out and see if you did this right on your own. Okay, so go ahead and do these two over here. Okay, so now you've had time to solve these problems out, and we are going to go ahead and see if you did it correctly and if you get the right answer. So we are starting with 340 miles per hour into meters per second. So essentially, this what it looks like is 340 miles per 1 hour. And we're going to go ahead and take one step at a time. Our first step is to convert miles into meters. So I'm just going to go ahead and extend this out. 340 miles. Remember, in our conversion, 1 mile is equal to 1,600 meters. So multiply that. And 340 times 1,600 gives us a nice round number of 544,000 meters. At the very bottom, we're going to convert from hours into seconds. So there's 60 minutes and there's 60 seconds. So we multiply each of those. So at the very bottom of this, we get 3,600 seconds. Again, don't leave your answer as this, because this is 544,000 meters per 3,600 seconds. So go ahead and actually use your calculator, divide this by this to get your final answer, which is 151.11 repeating. Because in your calculator, you'll see a bunch of ones over here. If it never changes, it becomes a repeating, so you signify that with that little symbol right there, meters per second. And that's your answer. So if you got it, great job. If not, see where you went wrong with this and correct your error. Okay, going into this one over here, 20 kilometers per hour into meters per second. So 20 kilometers from kilometers to meters, that's a metric conversions. So remember, we're going to have to use that. So 20 kilometers, and we're going to go into meters. And this is what we started off with, which was kilo from here, going into meters. Not here. This is milli. This is millimeters, 2 M's, one letter. So we start here, 1, 2, 3 to the right. So start 1, 2, 3 to the right, draw your arrow, and you got 20,000 meters. That's your first step. Your second step is to take 1 hour and convert that into seconds. Well, we've done that plenty of times over here, times 60, minutes times seconds. So this becomes 3,600 seconds. So 20,000 divided by 3,600 seconds becomes 5.55, and it keeps on going. At the very last digit, there is a 6. It's not repeating. So while this looks like this, go ahead and round it as 5.56 meters per second. And your answers in my class should always look like this: 2 numbers after the decimal. I'm not going to be uptight about sig figs. That's it. This is the end of the recording. Enjoy.